Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this video. The fact that you guys are willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to consume my content really does mean the world to me. Unfortunately, I've been struck by load shedding, so my set isn't necessarily the most attractive right now, but we've got something very exciting planned. We're going to be doing an interview with Christopher, who was the director for Lunch with Hitler. So we're going to basically be inviting him on, and we're going to be talking about the short film, which was incredibly powerful. And this is what happens when you don't have your studio, you get attacked by your pets. But yes, let's jump straight into this. Christopher, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for the audience.
So man, I've just watched the film a few times before. I watched it again just before we did this interview. It's incredibly powerful, and not something I was expecting from the title itself. So I just want you to let me know, what was the process behind your thoughts of this short film? Was this a concept you just somewhat came up with on the spot, or is this something you'd been thinking about for a while? What was that initial spark that drove you to create this film?
The spark of the story actually came from an article that I read online while I was on set, and sometime in 2014 I was on set, and as you do, you just browse the news, and I came across this interview with this 95-year-old who claimed to be one of Hitler's taste testers, and she sort of gave testimony to her life and her life story, and it was quite a tragic story. And the thing that struck me was that it's a story that you could find relevance to it, whether it was 1944, whether it was 1336, or even today. You can imagine that type of thing taking place in any country now, and under any sort of dictatorship. The fact that someone's forced into servitude it's a pretty universal story, and that's kind of what stuck with me. And it was difficult to adapt that from the real life history into something that was digestible in the form of a short story. That was the challenge.
One thing you said there that really stood out to me, you said it's something that's incredibly relatable. And that is something that could happen at any point in time, under any sort of dictatorship, at any point in time and space in all of history. And that hit me really hard while watching this film. But what I think you did so great with this film is there's very little dialogue. In fact, I would say there's potentially one interaction in the entire film that's a few lines long. And of course it's not spoken in English, so you've got to read the subtitles and everything. But what's great about it is it becomes a concept that anyone from any background, from any understanding, any education level, as long as they can read the subtitles, they know what's happening. And that was potent, because the entire story was just told through the faces, through the cinematography, through the emotion of the scene. So you guys did an absolutely phenomenal job of bringing that to life, using very few lines, but you told this incredibly captivating story. So can you actually just speak me through the process of finding the correct audio, or even just planning your shots in regards to the cinematography? Because that's what carries the film. As we mentioned, there's very little dialogue. Everything is told through the visuals and the audio. So can you just tell me how you storyboarded that, how you came up with the concepts behind that? Just give me a broad overall view on how you decided to action it.
Sort of from script to screen, kind of a breakdown. It was always that's always the tough, or the challenging thing about adapting something where it's like, this is inspired by true events. You don't want to, initially you get bogged down in these are the facts, and you get to a point where in the script you're like, well, this is not a documentary. I didn't set out to make a documentary because it would look very different. The rules are very different. You want to take a story, fictionalize certain elements, and push and pull things so that it works the best in the form of the medium that it is. And it's all too obvious to take the story about Nazi soldiers and just have them punching everybody and threatening everyone with guns and like, you must do it sort of becomes like farce at that point, or cliche that's what they're going to do. And it was, let's not do that. Let's not have shouting. Let's not have screaming. Let's take all of those things, go in the opposite direction, and let's just focus on the story of the three leads and what that would feel like from their perspective. I kind of feel like the former perspective that I spoke about almost feels like a ride at Universal Studios, where you've got this, like, we're going through all the motions of something, but we're not going through the emotions of something. So from that point of view, we try to bring it into that inner circle, and that determined shot choice, a determined dialogue, and also to create three distinct characters. All the performers did an incredibly amazing job with what little character that they had on screen to try and say these are three individual human beings. When you watch this, you should get a sense of there's like a hierarchy in place. This person's at this emotional state, this is at that state. You get a sense of routine, all those things. And, hats off to everyone, Tom Murray that shot the film in terms of visuals. He actually just won an award at the Tokyo Film Festival for cinematography. So shout out to Tom and the lighting team there. It was really down to location scouting. We scouted through storyboards from there, do shot lists, and we try to plan everything so that we shot this film in 2 days. We try to keep it all within the same location, set dressing, and really plan out, okay, we're going to shoot this part of this scene and this, break it down, relight it. Where's the lighting coming from? I wanted to keep things pretty real, pretty design and thoughtful, and nothing on screen, nothing is there that shouldn't be there, even in a short film. So I wanted, and if you don't have dialogue, you have to intentionally design things to tell the story, to try visually trap the characters, things like that. So those discussions happened sort of very quickly over the 2 days that we had, and storyboarding was definitely it. That's what kept us in, and just everybody putting in 110%, make sure that we got it there. And sometimes the stars do align where things do work. You have an idea, you're like, hey, I want to do this in one shot. And then you go do it, and then you go back and you start editing, and you realize, oh, okay, there's no dramatic ups and downs, or this doesn't work. With this, we did little coverage, but I knew what I needed to get what I needed from there. And that only worked because, we had A-level performers, and the stars aligned.
I just have to say that absolutely blows my mind. The fact that you guys did this entire shoot in 2 days is incredible. And yes, there weren't many locations, and yes, like most of the scenes. Actually, I want to ask you, how much of the scenes were, I would assume none of them was ever done in one take. But that was a lot of emotion for the actors to process, and a lot of emotion for the actors to go through. Sorry, I know I'm doing a complete 180 as to what the points I was just going to make. But can you just tell me what was it like actually working with those actors? Because it's an incredibly emotional sequence that they're acting out. And these aren't short scenes. I mean, it's 3 minutes a piece where these actors are just sitting there, like soaking in their own emotion. Guide me through that process as a director. How did you approach them? How did you talk to them? Or did they just know their characters and what their characters would be emoting?
A lot of that performance, it'll always come from wardrobe. The moment you get into an actor gets into a wardrobe, then you're like, great, this is the character. They find the shoes, the hair. Nicola and Gina that did hair, Noreen that did wardrobe, and they really helped bring a sense of time and place. And in that time and place and discussions with Bryony, Deborah, and Mila about their characters, we just dropped little hints of like, this is your first day. That was kind of the idea, was that maybe she's new to this, where the other two, they've been doing this for a lot longer. This is the hierarchy, and this is the type of person you are. So everything was off screen. The conversations were off screen. This is when this scene ends and we go sit in the dorm room and we go do homework, or we go do yard work, or whatever the characters do when they're not on screen informs who they are on screen. And those discussions happen on the fly, they happen beforehand. And it really just comes down to the moment. We do a take. I always tend to do a wide master shot. And then from there, I get a good sense of, okay, cool. It's what I mentioned about the one-ers. I get a sense of, okay, that's going to work. That's not going to work. Okay, cool. Punch in here, punch in there, go in there. Or actually, I'm actually going to use that wide shot just for that little piece, and then never again. But we run it through so we get a sense of what's there. And you have to be careful about training performers. It's one thing to say, just keep going. It's great, but there are limits. And the toughest thing about having all your performers on screen, whether there's 2 of them or 10 of them, someone might be hitting it on take 1 and 2, and then it's gone. Some of them might need 5 takes to get in. So you have to find that rhythm very quickly, and that's where you decide how you cover these things to play to the strengths of everyone. And it's just a dance. You feel it when you go. It's okay, more of this, less of that. We did quite a few takes of Mila crying, and I did feel bad because I'm like, that's great, but now we got to do it from this angle. Okay, great. Rewind yourself back. think of, okay, this is what's going to happen, this last beat, okay, and action, cry. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do, and you don't realize what it takes for a performer to get into that space and then sort of turn the tap on and off. It's quite difficult. So a lot of that is in the moment, just talking, saying, I want this, I want that, or saying, look, let's just run it. A lot of it is let's see what we get. We run it, and I think, perfect. That instinct was perfect. Let's do it again. I like what you did there. Actually, you know what I was thinking? Let's do this, or like recede in this moment, or actually be more forceful in this moment. And you guide them, and it kind of self-steers. You know, when you turn a car around a corner and then the steering wheel just kind of guides itself back. Sometimes those things just happen. One performer will lead another on. You'll spark an idea, and when it works, it works. When it doesn't work, that's when you break for lunch and and like think, okay, what are we going to do? Luckily, we didn't have to do that.
Well, Christopher, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure that the subscribers at home do appreciate it as well. This was an incredibly unique and beautiful short film that you put together. I found myself questioning a lot of it in regards to how I was responding to it, my emotions surrounding it. Because in many ways, shapes and forms, these are women who were pretty much victims of their situations. And we'd expect, since they were on the side of the Nazis, that everything was hunky-dory for them in their own home country, but that's definitely not the case. So I definitely saw a new perspective through this film as well, and I really want to thank you for that.
Thank you so much. And that's the power of film. That's the power of art, is that I don't want to tell you what this film is about. You need to experience it and other forms of entertainment and make your mind up for it and discuss it and talk about it. And that's why we do what we do.
Awesome, Christopher. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Just quickly, before we end this interview, can you just tell everyone that's busy watching this video right now what your next project is and how they can follow you, whether that's on Instagram, whether you have a newsletter that goes out, but how can people follow you on your journey?
So very quickly, what we was discussing was Lunch with Hitler. Before this, I made a short film called Tears in the Rain, which was a science fiction love letter to Blade Runner. And I'm currently developing a little horror film. And based on how that works out, I'm looking to jump that into a feature film. I am mostly active on Instagram, Chris Grant Harvey. You can't miss my ugly face. And I'm kind of on Facebook, but not really. If you really want to connect with me, Instagram would be the place. And I have my website as well. Well, if you just Google Lunch with Hitler, it should take you. There's very few places that's going to take you that won't lead to my filmography. So that's probably the best route to go. Next
time someone's going to be typing in Lunch with Hitler, they're going to end up with a reservation they had no idea they were going to be possibly getting.
No, or someone's going to cotton on and do a series like, Breakfast with Mussolini, or there's other options.
But again, Christopher, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it.